In the 21st century, in many places, men and women have equal rights and responsibilities. In Australia, more than 60% of women over the age of 15 are employed. In Australia, girls are 5% more educated than boys. And in almost every Western country, women are given the right to vote. Unfortunately, this, until very recently, was not the case. Women were mistreated, uneducated, unemployed, and were given the roles of caring for children and maintaining the household. This was no different in halakhic times, thousands of years ago. This movie will attempt to uncover this pivotal issue of women's rights through investigating something so simple as women learning Talmud. The Talmud contains both the Mishnah and Gemara, and though right now, being exposed to learning in a mixed Jewish school with equal opportunities, this question seems like such an obvious answer. But if we dig deep back in time to the Torah, Mishnah, Gemara, Rishonim, Shulchan Aruch, Achronim, and contemporary time periods, we will learn how much has been put in place in Jewish history and law to get women's rights where they are today. So here we go. Are women permitted to learn Gemara? Here we have a pasuk from the Torah, which is also present in our Siddur in the Shema. V'limdatam otam et benechem ledaber bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvelechtecha b'derech uveshavtecha uvkumecha. And teach them to your children, reciting them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Our deep and troubling issue of women learning Gemara is first introduced from the Torah stating, V'limdatam otam et benechem, and you shall teach your children. Children, children, children. The Torah has raised two moral questions and dilemmas. Does benechem mean boy and girl? Who does the teaching? Who teaches the children? Now it's time to go forward in time to the early Talmudic period to hear what the Mishnah has to say. Kol mitzvot haben al ha'av, anashim chayovim, benashim paturot. V'chol mitzvot ha'av al haben, echad anashim ve'echad nashim chayavin. With regard to all mitzvot of a man, with regard to his father, men are obligated to perform them and women are exempt. And with regard to all mitzvot of a father, with regard to his son, both men and women are obligated to perform them. Here, the Mishnah teaches us that mitzvot where the son performs the mitzvah for the father, men are obligated and women are not. For example, kibud av ha'em, honoring your parents. We are also taught that when a father does a mitzvah for his son, men are obligated and so are women. The Mishnah raises the question, what mitzvot does a father do for their son? Over 200 years later, the Gemara has here helped to answer this question, while also bringing new ones in. Tanina leha detana rabanan ha'av chayav bevano lemolo velifdoto velilmedo Torah velahashio isha velilmedo omanut veyesh omrim af lahasito b'mayim. The Gemara comments, according to this interpretation, we learn in this Mishnah that which the sages taught in a Baraita, a father is obligated with regard to his son to circumcise him and to redeem him if he is a firstborn son who must be redeemed by payment to a priest, and to teach him Torah, and to marry to him a woman, and to teach him a trade, and some even say a father is obligated to teach his son to swim. The Gemara has answered what mitzvot a father has to do for their son. He has to circumcise, redeem, marry, teach him trade, some say teach him how to swim, and teach Torah. The Gemara will then ask, does the mother have the same obligations that the father has? For example, how do we know a father must give their child a Brit Milah and a mother must not? Then the Gemara says, well, we know this from the Torah source, Bereshit 21:4. Yamel Avraham et Yitzchak beno ben shmonat yamim ka'asher tzivah oto Elohim. And when his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God had commanded him, not her. The Gemara then continues with this structure, finding a Torah source for each of the mitzvot that a father has to do for their son, explaining why women are not obligated. Then the Gemara demonstrates why a father is obligated to teach his son Torah and why a woman is not. This is pretty cool. Are you ready? Here we have the Torah source that we started with, but the Gemara has a different interpretation. The Gemara outlines that to teach, limdatam, and to learn, limadatem, are similar words. The Gemara states that these similar words teach us that anyone obligated to learn must be obligated to teach. We then ask, how do we know women are not obligated to teach? And the Gemara answers, because they're not obligated to learn. And how do we know that? And the Gemara answers that no one is obligated to teach them. And how do we know that? From the Torah source, Belimdatamotam et benechem, not banotechem. There we go. The Gemara defines the broad words of benechem as sons and not daughters. But the Gemara has still left us confused. Why is it pointing out why women can't do all these mitzvot, father to son, as we thought that they were obligated, as that's what the original Mishnah says? We are then taught that all of these are just exceptions to the rule because you can only be obligated to do something for someone else if you're only obligated to do it for yourself. For example, Brit Milah. Girls can't have a Brit Milah, so they aren't obligated to give their sons one. And for learning Torah, women are only obligated to teach Torah if they are obligated to learn it, which we have learned from the Gemara that they are not. There is, however, an obligation in the Mishnah and Gemara for a father to teach his daughter Torah. Mishnah Sotar, Perek 3, Mishnah 4. Though this opinion was completely rejected, it does show that an opinion that women should learn did exist at this time. Our case continues with Rambam, the Rishonim scholar, commenting on this issue. But since what he says is very long, we will just summarize it. The Rambam says that there is a reward for women learning Torah. However, this reward is not as big as men, as they are not obligated, as we learned about before. In addition to this, he also recommends that women do not learn, because the women at the time of the Rambam in the 12th century did not have the mental capacity to learn. What the Rambam has implied is maybe, just maybe, women do have the possibility to learn Torah in the context that they do have the mental capacity. And what does mental capacities refer to? Well, it refers to women not being able to read or write because of their lack of education at the time, which now most girls do have. The Shulchan Aruch Yordea Siman Reish Mem Vav quotes the Rambam, saying that a woman that learns Torah gets some sort of reward. The Ashkenazi voice in the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Moshe Ishalis, says that a father is obligated to teach her daughter Torah that relates to her. For example, at that time, marrying, pregnancy, the laws of family purity. But The question that comes out of this is that as women's rights increase, like they have today, there are more things that start to relate to her. So does this mean that women can start to learn about more and more things as time develops? The acronym period from 1500 onwards emphasises why this issue is even more prevalent nowadays. The period of the acronym contained many revolutions, which affected the traditional Jewish life cycle. In addition to women's rights increasing as described in the Shulchan Aruch, the structure of the community life also changed. As the Chofetz Chaim explains, nowadays we don't live in close shtetls, and there may not always be a rabbi readily available to ask questions, and so people started diverging away from tradition, not doing what their mum or dad did. Therefore, every person had to learn how to answer their own questions and create their own traditions. The most obvious question derived from this acronym source is that, does this also include women? And we know that this does include women, because in the same way that the sons were learning from their fathers, so too the daughters were learning from their mothers. But because this change stopped, women had to start learning for themselves. It is time to conclude this case and fill in any plot holes with the most recent Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe comes out and says in the book called The Gates of Halacha and Tradition, saying that nowadays it's not only allowed, but recommended for women to learn Torah Sheba Al Peh, which is a Mishnah and Gemara. The obvious question is, why did the Rebbe so randomly come out and say this? Why? The answer is that he saw that in his time period, which is most recently, that women were becoming critical thinkers in all other fields except Judaism. They now did have that mental capacity. If we want to prevent Jewish women from leaving Judaism because they were not being challenged in it, we need to teach women Sheba Al Peh. And our case is concluded. Women can and should and are recommended to learn Talmud, because according to our sources nowadays, men and women have equal rights.